He's back.
Missing stuffed animal.
Emergency.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Charlie and I went to see Seinfeld, and that was one of his bits, right? It's like, you know what bedtime was when I was a kid? Darkness. Go to sleep. Now you need the emotional, the stuffed animal semicircle of emotional support.
So many stuffies. Just
he ain't wrong. Oh yeah, both of them.
Got to have your water.
My big question is when these kids go to college, like, how are they going to coordinate the sound machines with their roommates? Like, if you're a ocean kid, and somebody else is a forest kid, like, you might have to switch roommates.
That's how you get paired up.
White noise.
Oh, I think it's funny that we act like they're going to be paired up. They're all going to have their own ensuite with privatized. No one will have enough social interaction to be able to exist with a stranger.
Yeah, they can't be expected to live with somebody they've never met with.
What a
before.
crazy concept.
That's crazy. Do you know what kind of trauma they would undergo if we made them do that?
You lived with your brother.
Welcome to our Film Fathers podcast, the definitive podcast about fatherhood, film, and fatherhood in film. This is Jelani, and with me as always are a guy who is state-of-the-art, but not a ninja, and a guy who danced with the devil in the pale moonlight, Martin and Brady.
Yeah, that's because your memories are filled with ones and zeros, pal, and our memories are filled with every fuck-up we've ever made.
Can somebody tell me what kind of world we live in where a man dressed up as a bat gets all of my press? This town needs an enema.
This week, we welcome to the pod longtime listener but first-time father, Charlie Cebuhar. At his request, we're diving into the 2018 sci-fi thriller Upgrade. With intense action and slick visuals, this movie has been flying under the radar for far too long and has a surprisingly thought-provoking look at the future of technology. But as is tradition, we are also thrilled to watch Charlie's movie you can't wait to show your kids, Tim Burton's Batman from 1989. Whether you're revisiting it or introducing your children to Michael Keaton's legendary take on the Caped Crusader, this movie remains a cinematic classic. A movie that set the superhero genre in motion for many of us. It's a must-watch for fans of all ages. Welcome, Charlie.
Hey, Charlie. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, of course. Long-time listener, first-time caller. Excited to be a part of this.
Exactly. I know you and I were chatting before, and I know you couldn't wait to hear the guys' takes, our take on Upgrade. And
yeah, I feel like there's a lot of pressure on this one since it's my first pick, and essentially forced all of you to watch it.
You were pretty confident that you would get a 3 for 3.
On that note, I actually don't know, Jelani and Martin, was this your first time, or have you seen this movie before?
It was my first time, yeah.
It was not my first time.
Unbelievable!
This movie actually had been on a list of movies that I had wanted to see for a while, and I'd probably say about 4 or 5 months ago, I actually sat down and watched it. And I was pleasantly surprised when you suggested it, Charlie.
Oh, nice.
I didn't think many people had seen it.
That's exactly why I picked.
This was definitely my first time. Martin, what did you think?
I couldn't believe how good it was. Because I couldn't believe that I hadn't heard about it before or anything else. And I'll admit that kind of going into it, I liked it, but I thought it was going to be very predictable. So I was like, oh, this is just, I know where this is going to go. And then by the end, that's why I was blown away by how good it was. Because by the end, I did not predict it. And I just thought it was such a great, downer of an ending, but also kind of cool, and it just was very unique, and I'm just very surprised that I hadn't heard more about it. And obviously, Charlie, you and I have been talking about it for a bit, and you've mentioned it a few times. But so I shouldn't have been that surprised that I liked it as much as I did, with coming from a recommendation from a movie aficionado such as yourself. So I loved it. Brady?
Well, I definitely I recognized the tile or whatever from being on Netflix. I remember seeing it and not really knowing much about it. Never got around to watching it. Probably would have never found it, to be honest, if it wasn't for this, which is always a joy from the podcast. I'm going to probably be the furthest away from the love factor. I did not dislike the movie, but I just thought it was okay. There were some things that I thought were cool, and also, I'm not sure it's one I'd watch again.
Oh, wow. Womp womp.
So, which should not be in any way, shape, or form. That should not be a knock on the movie, as we know.
Angelani?
Yeah, I love the originality of it. So I feel like Logan Marshall Green is one of those actors that you like don't hear a lot of, and you see him every now and then. You're like, oh, hey, it's that guy, and you want to know if he can like carry a film. And I thought he did a pretty good job here.
I think I know why you don't hear about him. But
You're like, is that Boyd Holbrook? Is that Tom Hardy?
Yeah, so
poor man's Tom Hardy.
Poor man's Tom Hardy,
Yeah.
definitely.
a broke ass man's Tom Hardy.
What I paid attention to a little bit more this time was it's a Blumhouse film, Martin,
Yeah.
and
That caught my attention too.
I didn't know that the first time I watched it. Like, I didn't think about that, and then as I'm watching, I'm like, oh, that makes a lot more sense. Like, again, the way that the action is drawn out, the way that the gore is kind of played up a little bit is very much like a horror film.
Yeah. And it's written by a horror guy.
Yeah.
I wanted to talk about the gore, but I did want Charlie to kind of explain his reasoning for outside of just wanting us to watch it. If there was more to it than that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, from technical aspect of the film, the fact that this was made for $3 million is absolutely unheard of. It's a beautiful looking movie. Technically, the action sequences are some of the most original I've ever seen. Which it's funny because they fit a cell phone into his shirt pocket. And then they had a gyroscoping camera that would lock onto it and track his movement. So
yeah, I hadn't seen it. That looked good. I hadn't seen something like that before, where when he was moving, everything was following along with it. Yeah, it was a unique look.
Yeah, I saw that note. It said something like he was always in the middle of frame because of that.
Yeah, it's also a film noir movie, very much so. But it's got like that interesting twist.
Well, it's Noirvember.
That instead of the standard voiceover narration, is the AI talking to him.
Yeah.
So it's acting as that overarching narration, but it's also a plot device in and of itself. So I love that about it. I love that it's an interesting world building. They're establishing all these new companies that are very much like Google. No offense, Martin.
None taken.
Building all these technological advances. Have you guys ever seen Devs?
I love Devs.
It was on my list.
Yeah,
I did not get there.
It's our boy. What's his name? Alex.
Nick Offerman,
Yeah,
right?
but the writer.
And Nick Offerman and Alex Garland wrote it and directed it. Very, very similar in nature to this. I think they came out roughly around the same time. And I also love that it reminds me of like a modern version of RoboCop almost, where it's heavy violence to actually make a point, right? And that point is it will dehumanize if we give it to it.
Yeah, it's funny that you said RoboCop. I had a note here that for me it was like John Wick meets Venom. But I really initially I had it as RoboCop meets Venom, because like Venom is this whole the symbiote, right, and that's talking to him and trying to tell him, speaking of Tom Hardy. So maybe that's what I had in mind as well. But yeah, I definitely
and these movies came out the same year too.
As what?
Venom, I think, was
Venom.
2018.
That's funny as well. But yeah, I thought I definitely got the RoboCop vibe of like we can rebuild him, make him better, and the futurism of this. And I thought it looked pretty really good, like the car and all like the technology in it looked very solid.
You mean like the two models from Now Cybertruck?
Yeah.
Cap. Well, a Cybertruck with rounded out edges. Find the lie. I think I saw there was a estimation that the movie was set in like around 2046, based off like some of the paperwork or whatnot, and I'm like, oh yeah, so Elon's got about 20 years to get this Cybertruck into exactly what we just saw in this on this.
Soften those corners a little bit.
Exactly.
Charlie, you mentioned film noir, and that's my ears pricked up because I'm a big film noir fan, and these guys are not as much. So I love that I have a kindred spirit today. What are some of your favorites?
Hold on.
Pump
here.
the brakes
I don't
on that
use
one.
Old
words,
school film noir.
Not as much.
What?
Yeah, we don't like black and white
But that's
bullshit,
what-
but we
but-
still like film noir.
Film noir. You're talking about neo noir. I'm talking about the old school noir stuff. Well, that was my part of my question is, what are some of your favorites, and is it only do you only like neo noir, or are you down with
I
old school?
definitely lean more towards neo noir. So like Blade Runner is definitely top of that list. I love Chinatown. Copland is one that I know I've talked about before.
We're overdue on that. I've mentioned that in the past. I remember liking that movie a lot when I was younger and seeing it. I would love to revisit it.
Yeah, let me know. I'll definitely. Well, let's see how this goes. I guess.
We're getting ahead of ourselves.
But, those type of like long, drawn out mysteries with like the twists and turns and distinct characters, dark, seedy underbellies.
Yeah.
It's all very attractive and pulling.
I totally agree. Yeah, and this had good elements to that.
I would say Batman, not to jump the gun on that, but I would say Batman, the new one, the old one, is very much a noir film as well, right?
Yeah.
He's trying to solve the crime. He's got like the detective side of it. Yeah,
Plenty of seedy underbelly in there.
Charlie, did you watch Nightmare Alley?
I did. The Benicio del Toro one.
No.
Guillermo. del Toro.
With Bradley Cooper.
Guillermo del Toro.
Yeah.
Bradley Cooper with Willem Dafoe, and they're in the circus.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yeah, that movie's pretty messed up. That's a good one though.
Yeah, I think like things like that. Like I'm with you. Like with the neo noir, having trying to go down a path, figure out what's going on. Like another one that's really good that we all enjoy is L.A. Confidential. That's more
Love that
just
movie.
your old school film noir, but like set with a little bit more color.
That's as far back as we got to go.
Yeah, but I'm with you though. Like having the twists and turns and trying to figure out the who done it. And then ultimately there's some other twist at the end. You're like, oh no. Like I didn't see that one coming. I also just like the futuristic aspect. Like I'm a sci-fi nerd at heart all day, every day. And like when Gray goes and gets the surgery and they start panning over that dome that he's getting the surgery in, and you see like the x-ray through the different like pieces of glass. I was like, that's really cool. The people who are doing the surgery, you see the cybernetic eyes that they have so they can, make sure they're doing the surgery properly. Like all of that stuff is that hits me right in my feels. I love it.
I mean, that modification piece is something that's actually happening too, right? I mean, I know this was made 6 years ago, so it's not that far off, but those implants and mental modifications and the surgical aspect of it, like they're all realistic aspects of technology.
Speaking of that scene, that guy, Iran, I was going to call him Iran because I was, Iran. Dude, was that, I know because they made this for $3 million, they couldn't pay any actors of substance, but that role was destined for Rami Malek, right?
Oh, really?
No,
You're saying he looked like him?
as soon as I saw that guy, no, I'm just saying that character should have been played by Rami Malek. Like,
He easily could have done it.
Yeah.
if you're recasting that, he was the exact amount of like odd, just very
introvert, shut in kind of.
exactly.
Yeah.
I was like, as I was watching that guy, who I'm going to call him a no name because I will never talk to him in person, but I very much was like, oh man, Rick, Rami should have played this role if they wanted to spend.
If they had the bigger budget, not the Blumhouse budget, they could have gotten the bigger actor.
Right.
Brady, why didn't you like his performance? Because I actually liked it quite. The parts where Stem took over, and you're watching his face and expressions, because he still has control over his face and has no idea what's happening to the body. I don't know. I thought that was a really well-rounded performance.
Yeah, I mean, I don't look, I'll say personal. I just thought in general, maybe it was just my lack of exposure with him. He just was a little bit, for me, what's the right word? There were times I felt like he was almost like he had like an unaffected vibe to him, even though obviously it was a pretty intense situation going on. That's probably just my own little perception of it, but I also wasn't not necessarily hyper-analyzing it. I just in general didn't think he was all that awesome, but I get what you're saying, and I do think what you mentioned earlier, I thought like the way that it was filmed was actually pretty cool. I especially liked when he was essentially would go from like floor up.
Yeah, right.
You know, I thought
Without,
that was
yeah.
and like the whole room moved with him. You know, I thought that was actually the way they shot that was pretty sweet. So that, like I said, there were definitely things I liked. By no means do I will happily shit all over the movie if I don't like it. That is
not what's happening here.
This is way better than some of the noir shit that Martin's made us watch in the past. So.
They hated like Touch of Evil, if you've ever seen that.
I haven't seen that one. Did you make him watch the Maltese Falcon?
I love the Maltese Falcon. It's one of my favorites.
That's a yes.
But I love Humphrey Bogart. But with this movie, I just kept thinking that it was going to be, there was no way they were going to not let him win, right? Not let him beat Stem and come back. So when that didn't happen, I guess I shouldn't have been shocked, because it has a high Rotten Tomatoes score, and I feel if it was just like a trite, predictable ending, it wouldn't have had such a good score. But I still feel like I was surprised by it, and how they went about it. And when he killed the cop at the end, you know, I was like, all right, that's a dark ending. That's good. Like I thought there's no way they're going to kill her, and then they do. So it made me like it more.
I agree with that. I think watching that scene, I think you're trained to expect what's coming, and I would be amazed if the majority of the audience saw that coming. I think it was completely against, and I actually liked, that was one thing I liked, was the putting him in his own essentially fantasy land, and that was all that he needed. I thought that was a cool approach. So I personally did not dislike the ending, and part of it was being completely surprised.
Well, that's because at first you're like, wait, are they just doing this as the whole thing as a dream? And I'm like, well, that's kind of lame, but also still a twist that's whatever, kind of cool. But then you find out it's another twist, not what you're expecting. So I felt like I was Joker going through the portfolio, being like, crap, oh, this I like.
The Corto Maltese.
Yes, the Corto Maltese.
When did you guys start to suspect that Stem was up to no good?
Much later than I like to admit.
Yeah.
Same.
You know,
I don't think I realized it until they went to the hacker, and then he kind of just kicked it off and told him, like, yeah, you took out the railings, you took out the guards, the input guards, and now I'm in control whenever I want. And you're just like, oh no.
Yeah,
where he's just laying in bed paralyzed again.
Yeah. Did you guys recognize the cop?
Yes. She's in Get Out.
Yeah,
I looked
she's
it
the
up.
grandma.
Yeah, but I was trying to think if there was another movie I saw because she looked familiar from something else. But yeah,
you didn't see it, Martin, but Jelani. If you kept going, I recognized her and couldn't place her. The Get Out thing didn't come to me. Even when I was looking, I got to something else, which is what I stopped looking.
Yeah,
because Mary was watching part of this with me, and I was like, oh man, how do I know her? And then she asked the same thing, and I looked it up, and she was in the Jack Ryan series.
Yep,
I saw the first season.
She was in
so she wasn't in the first season, and so that's why and so I was like, that's 100% who. And so I stopped looking, and then I saw your note about Get Out, and I'm like, oh my god, totally. I did not think that far back, and I thought I had already hit it, so I didn't really look too much further. But
yeah, I just think it's funny that they picked her because obviously the last scene, right? He goes into that dream world, and he's stuck inside his own body, which is very much Get Out, right?
Yep.
So I thought that was pretty cool. Pretty good twist.
I mentioned Mary, my wife, was watching with me, right up until the point that he split this guy's face open with a with a knife, and she's like, "Okay, I'm going to bed." Because that was an escalation of gore and violence, which you touched on earlier, which is why I wanted to come back to it, because that jumped a little bit, and I was like, "Oh,
This escalated pretty fast.
did not see that coming."
Let me use the knife. Yeah, I kind of thought they weren't going to show his face at all because in my mind it was way worse than even what they showed. Like in my mind, he was just completely like it was just all raw skin, and I think it almost would have been better if they just didn't even show his face. They just kind of let you imagine that his face was ripped off, like Face Off.
Are you talking about you're talking about the guy in the bathroom?
Yeah.
With,
That's what I'm talking about.
I think Brady's talking about
The
where
first
he takes
guy.
the knife and
The very first guy, he
his
splits his
jaw.
face, and
Okay,
it goes,
right,
it just opens
Yeah.
up.
yeah.
He essentially pulls the kitchen knife to like the back of his
Oh, okay,
skull,
gotcha.
which
Right.
was I just wasn't quite ready for that move.
That I was glad they showed. I was happy about that one.
Yeah, that was the
sounds
first
like it.
kill,
Yeah.
right? That's where things
First
really
kill.
start asking.
Yep, that's where I was like. I mean, it was early enough, and we're like, okay. She was intrigued. I mean, I looked over a couple times, and I'm like, it's not a movie I thought she would want to watch, and she was definitely like kind of interested. That ended all interest from her standpoint.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was
I
fine.
think that's why I really enjoy the movie because it's a blend of a lot of different genres that I love. So it's a blend of a little bit of like horror like that, sci-fi, a good mystery, good technology, stuff in there as well. So yeah, it's got a little bit of everything that I like. And a twist.
Can we talk about how perfect the sound effects were with STEM as well when he's moving? Did you guys notice that at all?
I don't know. Go tell us more.
It was. I mean, I can't mimic it, but essentially the movements would have like a very specific sound effect to it when STEM was controlling
Okay.
him.
Yeah, especially when he takes over, right? And he's just like that, like zone that, and it like it
Yes.
definitely tells you that he is taking over, and then everything he does is very. It is almost robotic,
It's robotic,
right?
yeah.
And
Right.
Yeah,
it
I
goes
think,
through all of those.
I think I know what you're talking about. I think I just didn't notice it because it seemed very seamless. But what you're saying, like the way he moved, it was good acting in that sense. Or maybe it's all CG. I don't know. But he definitely, his face had, like you said, had the expression, but his body was just very robotic in everything that was moving. So however they accomplished that, whether that's him acting or it was just CG throughout, it looked seamless. It didn't look like it was fake at all or anything like that, which it easily could have.
So I have one question, right? So when Gray goes to confront Aaron, and Aaron tells him that STEM told him to set all of this up, right? Does Aaron have a version of STEM installed in himself? Like, how is STEM telling Aaron to do all this? Like, why does
would he
STEM have
listen?
any power over Aaron?
I don't know. I feel like there was a bit like if you probably could poke a couple holes like that in there, and also like STEM probably could have didn't need to pick one person and probably didn't need to wait for his brain to break or anything like that. But yeah, if you go along with whatever, like those are the requirements of the AI, then it all the film works pretty well.
I was under the impression that it's like that master manipulator, like this is how we avoid the human trial oversight and regulation.
Yeah.
That this is how we make that next leap. And, STEM is playing both of them against each other and then everyone against each other throughout the whole thing.
So you think Aaron did have STEM implanted as well?
No, I think STEM was communicating with him to essentially have him execute the plan by telling him.
How was it communicating? I guess would be the question.
Yeah,
Email,
that's unclear.
text messages,
Text, yeah.
Or
Snapchat.
or also, like, more
Interface.
importantly, why he would go along with it, right? Like, what did he have over Aaron or what did the AI have over Aaron that he would actually do it?
Yeah, like you said, I'm sure you could poke a ton of holes in it. That was just one that kind of stood out to me as like, okay, obviously there's something that STEM figured out or probably went through all of his emails and could easily like out him and all that stuff. And and say, "Hey, this is you're doing all of these illegal things, and I could easily blow the whistle,
Right.
or you can just follow along with me."
Right, some kind of blackmail or something is probably pretty easy in there. Did we talk about the writer director Lee? I don't know how you say it, Lee Whannell.
Specs.
What? Yeah. He was Specs in the Insidious
In the Insidious films?
the Insidious movies. Yeah, and he wrote Insidious as well, right?
Did he? I think he was on the story. I don't know if he wrote the whole thing, though.
Oh, okay. Maybe not all of it, but
Oh, that was Specs from Insidious?
it's the writer director of this. So yeah, there's it's funny because we just did Insidious, and not terrible, but we all agreed that it wasn't the best. But I like this 100 times more than Insidious. I thought this was much better.
It's because there was no giant flashlights. He left those at home.
He touched the Saw films as well. I think he's pretty good friends with who's the director of Saw and Aquaman and
James Wan.
James Wan. Thank you.
Yeah. I think he's probably pretty good at him and Jason Blum are probably pretty good friends because he's made them a lot of money through the years. Yeah.
How much money did this movie make? Because if it's a $3 million budget, that's got to be a good ROI, right?
If only we had a search engine AI that could tell us.
I'm showing it. Opening weekend was 4.5. Worldwide, just shy of 17 million.
Well, that still seems low.
I mean,
but I don't know when it went to Netflix. Probably relatively early, so probably didn't stay in theaters for a very long time.
I mean, to make your money back on the first weekend,
budget.
though, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
IMDb has the budget estimated at around 5, but I trust our guest over IMDb.
A W is a W.
Right.
Hell yeah.
Also, one of those interesting character arcs where the character is right from the very beginning and continues to prove himself right throughout the entirety of the film. So, have you ever seen Sunshine?
Yeah, that's Alex Garland
another
as well.
Alex Garland movie. There's a very similar arc with Chris Evans' character within that as well, where they are right from the very beginning and to the very end, and it's trying to get you as the viewer to disagree with them the entire time until it comes back around.
Meaning he was right in
the fear and hatred of technology and not wanting to touch it, and
that I do remember that. That's why watching this movie all along, I was pretty sure that someone caused the car that it wasn't just an accident, right? That the car froze up for a reason. So that's why I thought it was this is just going to be predictable. I knew that. I didn't know it was STEM, but I thought it was just going to be Aaron that had caused that.
Yeah.
So that then when it twisted, it made me like it even more because I felt like I knew what was going on, but I didn't. But yeah, I get your point. I don't remember Sunshine as much, but
I've never seen that, and I want to. I think one of you mentioned it.
I mentioned it.
I feel like it's a missing piece of my movie watching, considering I like Garland a lot.
And it's Danny Boyle, yeah.
That's a good pairing.
It's time for a rewatch for sure.
But let's talk about the movie you can't wait to show your kids.
Well, let me start by just saying when I asked them and I gave them the concept of movies you can't wait to show your kids, because we were talking about a bunch of movies to do, what movies we would do, and I'm like, well, Charlie, what movie can you absolutely not wait to show Selena? And he, without hesitation, said,
Batman.
Yeah.
This was the first film that mattered to me. Starting that with an eclectic Tim Burton vision is not a bad place to start. So I owned the VHS back in the day. I played it so many times that the reel actually snapped, and I cried for a week straight after that happened. It also started my interest in comics, which continued to this day, and my love of Batman. So, not to say that she was named after
Selena Kyle.
Yeah. It's not named after it, but maybe that's
inspired by.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, this was the first time I had revisited Batman in a long time. I mean, I remember seeing this. I remember loving it. I have not seen this movie in a very long time, and obviously there's been some iterations of Batman since. So this was a long time coming, and I still love this movie. It's not as great as I remembered it. I feel like it was better in my memories than, and this is partly due to just, I think, movies since then. There's just some. I feel like I have a hard time sometimes swinging in and out of the comic book movies and letting everything just roll and being okay with all of it instead of being critical about things. But
point counterpoint for me, I will say the exact opposite. I watched this with Colin, my 13-year-old son, and we both loved it. We had the best time watching it. It was he absolutely loved Jack Nicholson as Joker, and I did too. Like, I remembered him being good, but I don't think
he's so funny.
I don't think I appreciated him quite as much when I first saw this. And much like you, Charlie, this is the first movie I remember. I'm pretty sure it's the first movie we ever rented on VHS when it was 1989, New Year's Eve. My parents were out. They were like, "Fine, we'll let you rent a movie." I was like 9 years old. Not even 9, 8 years old, and
8 years old,
yeah, and we watched it, and yeah, loved it back then. Was so excited just to be able to watch it because it was obviously a huge movie that year, and yeah, just watching it as an adult. I've seen it since then, but I don't think I really sat down and watched all of it in one sitting. Probably maybe since back then, I've just seen bits and pieces of it. Loved Keaton's performance. Absolutely love Jack's performance. I love Jack Palance as well. I kind of forgot how great he was.
I thought I was watching Tango and Cash.
You're my number one guy. And when he does that, I remembered that line, and I told Colin, I'm like, pay attention to this line when Jack Palance does it, and then pay attention to do it later on when Jack mimics it. I thought we were cracking up laughing. And after we finished it, Colin was like, all right, we got to watch all the Batman movies now. I'm like, yes, that's what I want. Yeah. I'm like, maybe we can skip over Forever and Batman and Robin. He's like, nope.
No, you got to watch them all.
He's like, we're watching them all.
Watch them all.
Yeah.
That's what he said.
You're about to hate Joel Schumacher.
Yeah, Forever has some redeeming qualities, but it's.
I'm sure I haven't seen those since they came out. So I'll let you guys know how they go. But yeah, absolutely. And Tim Burton, we've done Pee-wee's Big Adventure, which I love. Tim Burton. We just did Beetlejuice recently for Halloween, and another great Michael Keaton role. And I just adore that movie. Because it's just how unique it is. And I think because of all the, again, opposite to what you said, Brady, because of all the modern Marvel and even DC movies, and I love the Nolan Batman movies, but there is something about this one that feels like it was the right movie at the right time, and it still feels that way now. Like, looking back, there's nothing about it other than a few moments where Colin's like, "Oh, that's CG," but there wasn't really a ton of it. And I love that it's based on the Killing Joke origin story of Batman, which I didn't read until like a few years ago. And just like the amount of love and care that I think went into putting this all together, and how it changed superhero movies forever.
I want to hear from these two, but I'll tell you afterwards what some of the things that I'm not, by no means do I dislike it, but there were some things I'm just like, this wasn't as great.
Yeah,
as
we can't all gush over it, so it's good.
Johnny, I know you're a fan of the Bat. So.
I love the Bat.
Yeah,
and
I know you're my kindred spirit. When you mention the Arkham games all the time, and I'm like, hell yeah,
100%. Like. I will die on this hill that I think Batman is the number one superhero of all time. And people will say, well, why? He doesn't have any superpowers. I'm like, exactly. That's the number one reason. He has no superpowers. Yeah. And yeah, his money is a superpower, but whatever. So Tony Stark has money too. But this movie I think this movie all led me down the path of just loving Batman. I mean, from everything from all of the toys, the gadgets, everything that he had on his utility belt, the Batmobile. I love the Batmobile. The Batwing, when it goes up into the sky and sits in front of the moon and gives you the image, you're like, yes. And then, for me, sound and music has a lot to do with it. So having the Prince soundtrack and then the Danny Elfman score, and then they took the Danny Elfman score and added that to Batman the Animated Series, which I watched like religiously as a kid, and I'm still going to go back and watch them all on Max right now, and just loved all of that. And yeah, it was great. I watched it, started it last night, probably at like 11, and ended it at like 1:30 in the morning. I was like, that was worth it. It was so worth it.
You didn't watch with Brooklyn?
It was longer than I remembered.
I did not watch it with the kids, but I am going to ask them if they want to. I kept asking them, and they chose to watch Independence Day instead, which I can't really fault them too much. But I want them to watch them all. I remember riding my bike to the movie theater, locking it up outside, and like going to see Batman Forever or Batman and Robin, and then making my like 6-year-old sister go check on the bikes to make sure they weren't stolen, so I didn't miss anything that was on the movie. Like, me and Batman all day, every day.
So, Jelani, who's your favorite Batman?
So I love Keaton because that's where I started. My favorite Batman of all time is Kevin Conroy, the voice of Batman the Animated Series. But if I have to pick a theatrical Batman, I think you have to put
Affleck,
Keaton's Batman better than Bale's. Like, as an overall, I think Bale pulls off the Bruce Wayne character much better. But I think Keaton pulls off the Batman character better.
I agree, 100%. Yep. And funny enough, a couple of years ago, I don't know. Obviously, Kevin Conroy is no longer with us. Rest in peace. But I don't know, 5-6 years ago, my team got me a cameo with him, where he was wishing me a happy birthday. So I still have that video. I'll share it with you one of these days. But it's pretty cool.
I loved the animated series too. Awesome. It's right up there with X-Men, and Batman the Animated Series were just great when I was when I was younger, and I think they still hold up. Like you said, I kind of want to watch them with Colin too.
We watched Batman the Animated Series in my English class for one of the Riddler episodes, and it was like, if you're so smart, why aren't you rich? That was the name of the episode.
Yep.
And it had all of these like literary references and riddles and stuff. Like that's the thing that I loved about Batman, was not only is he like a superhero, but he has all of these different villains that challenge different parts of him, right? It's not just, oh, I gotta fight this villain strength for strength. Like, yeah, he can fight Killer Croc, or he can fight Bane, but then he's got the Riddler, who's out here like testing his mind and making sure, like, hey, I've got all these different plots that I'm scheming about. And then you got the Joker, who's just a wild card, and you're like, I don't know what he's gonna do, but you know, when he gets the file and he reads, like, you know, intelligence and art and chemistry and all of these other things, but with the psychopathic tendencies, it's like, all right, so this isn't just a one-dimensional like killer. It's like somebody who has like a lot of different things that they're thinking about. And you know, they go to the art museum and the Flugenheim.
I love that. Yeah, the Flugenheim. Yeah.
So it's just like, it's a well thought out universe, and they do just a great job of bringing these characters. And then, you know, as you see throughout the rest of the series, like different characters, or we bring, you know, different interpretations of the same character. But again, it's more than just being a superhero that's based on strength. It's also based on intelligence and understanding again, we talked about film noir, right? It's a lot of noir, being the detective, trying to figure out who's doing what and why they're doing it. Like trying to figure out what is in the chemicals and which chemicals are mixed together and causing all of these. I love it.
That's why.
And dirty cops and seedy underbellies and gangs and
That's why we loved. I think all of us really liked the Batman. You know, the latest movie. It's based on what is that one? The Long Halloween that you had me read, Charlie.
Yeah, the Long Halloween,
which is great comic. And that is more of that detective side of Batman, which I do appreciate. I like that, I think, a lot more than just the superhero aspect of him. And I think have you guys started the Penguin show yet?
Not yet, but will.
I finished it. It's phenomenal.
I'm hearing good things. Yeah. Okay. I figured you'd watched it already. But yeah, after watching the movie, is all the performances are good?
Yeah. The woman that plays Sophia Falcone,
The mother. It's the mother from How I Met Your Mother.
Yeah, she's also the Wolf of Wall Street.
Yes. Yeah.
Yep. Correct. She's the girl in Palm
Springs.
Yeah. I don't know. We don't know her name clearly, but
Christina Milioti.
That's it.
there you
go. Breakout star of the show. Okay. She's unbelievable in it. I'm not going to spoil anything. It's definitely worth watching.
Okay, great. No,
it's definitely. I'm in the middle of a show, and it's next on my list. So I was waiting for it to all be done because I know that I'm going to probably start hammering multiple in a night, and I didn't want to. As much as I don't mind it sometimes, I didn't want to get into waiting a week. So, been spoiled.
What?
Yeah, I love that they're diving into the gangster mafia side of Batman that really doesn't really get played up that much. So it's been done in the comics a couple of times, and they've had adaptations, but and then the Nolan trilogy, they kind of use them as throwaway characters to lead to other villains or rogues gallery, but they're really leaning into it, and the show has been very much like Batman meets The Sopranos kind of thing. With no, obviously there's the focus on the Penguin and Colin Farrell's character, but it's a really interesting take on it that we really haven't seen before in live action.
Nice.
Charlie, did you watch Gotham?
I did.
Thoughts?
I like it. It was more campy, over the top, kind of ham-fisted.
Yeah.
But it's worth watching. I don't know. I enjoyed it, but it's a different kind of enjoyment.
I started it, and then I think the campiness, I was like, all right, I'm out. That was the one. Justin Meany was the star, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Did you like it?
I enjoyed it. Like I like the lead up. I like the understanding of, okay, here's how the backstory comes around. Here's how this world developed. Again, like I enjoy seeing the intelligence of Batman or Bruce Wayne, on display more than the strength of him. Understanding this is a really intelligent individual who knows, how to not only navigate through the social aspects, social worlds and corporate America and things like that, but also uses that brain power to manipulate some of the criminals that he's dealing with. And so I think it leads to, the love of Batman in general. But it's just funny because there's so many iterations, there's so many variations, and so many interpretations of Batman that you could spend hours, days, months.
I think there's a reason why, there's a reason why it's been interpreted so many times and done so many, because A, there's a lot of material there, and B, because people like it. It keeps getting butts in the seats, right? So that'll do it. Back to this movie though. What I was going to ask you guys a question. What did you think about their decision to actually kill the Joker and have him be dead, as opposed to the show or the old school show with Adam West where Joker never dies and the villains always just kind of keep going.
So I was gonna make a note of that. So famously, one of Batman's things is he doesn't kill, right? I mean, he's not gonna stoop to the same level as the criminals, but he for sure killed 1 billion people in this movie.
Yes, so many people.
He has so many bombs, missiles, machine guns that he should be a criminal, right?
Yeah, carnage.
He blew up that factory with 100 people.
Exactly.
Yeah, but they were all bad.
They were the bad guys.
But I mean, the original version of them had him using guns and killing people too, right? It's changed. So now the modern iteration is that he doesn't kill.
Yeah, there was no
Ben Affleck, of course.
So wait, and maybe you said it. You guys mentioned Charlie, who's your favorite Batman? Did I miss that?
It's Michael Keaton.
Okay, and then do you guys have a worst?
Clooney.
Yeah.
Okay, Martin, you can chime in if you want.
I haven't formed that full of an opinion on it. I'm looking forward to watching the Clooney one again just to see if it was as bad as I remember. Because I love Clooney. I love George Clooney. Like, it should have been okay. I don't know if it's just
You're like, how could it be bad?
Like how it should be fine, but I do remember it just not working. And I don't know if that's just because of the script or what.
Yeah, it was a bad movie. I don't think there's a George Lazenby in the Batman franchise, but Clooney might be close.
Well, and I'll tell you. So one of the things that I really didn't like about on the rewatch is Robert Wuhl.
You didn't like Arliss?
No,
that's just Knox, right?
Yeah.
It's just, and I know that's not like an actual character from like the Batman lore either. Like, I don't really know the benefit of what he's bringing to the table. I mean, he's just look. I know who Robert Wuhl is. Yeah, I watched Arliss. That dude. I've been around. I had my run with him. I just don't. He felt like a
Wait, which character
to
is
me
he in this movie?
The reporter.
Oh, yeah, I gotcha.
So I just it would have made much more sense for me to have Vicky Vale be the reporter, and really didn't need to have both of them.
Yeah.
Again, I still thought the movie was really good. I still really enjoyed it, but as on the rewatch, there was some stuff that really was like, yeah, he just was dumb in my opinion. I also really, really enjoyed her finding out that he was Batman, and then immediately there was like 5 minutes of them hemming and hawing about love instead of like any shock whatsoever.
Yeah.
Yes, I did notice that as well.
Same.
You're bringing up all these things that we definitely just don't pay attention to, and we just let it go.
And it's fine. Like, again, I'm not trying to rip on this movie because it is very much a classic from all of our youth. But those were a couple things that I had noted. And I'm like, oh my god, this is like absurd.
But Brady,
and not to mention, lastly, but the we'll say lack of sturdiness of the set when at the end when he is up on the ledge, quote unquote, and he's just, every step and move he makes, the entire thing is just a shaking.
Yeah.
They don't make them like they used to.
1989 movies. Yeah, it is what it is. I get it, right? But all right, I'm done. That's it for my my ripping of it.
Well, I think Kim Basinger was the weak link of the whole thing too. Her performance was kind of flat, and
I don't know that she was ever bringing a ton to the table on the acting front, so much as the aesthetics.
The hello legs.
Yeah. I think it's funny, and this is again probably them paying homage to the lore of Batman. But do you guys remember that in Suicide Squad, the newer one with Idris Elba, Margot Robbie, and they reference Corto Maltese? That's where they end up going.
I feel like I've heard it a few times in DC stuff before, but I couldn't be sure. I figured you guys would know.
It's from The Dark Knight Returns.
Yeah.
A couple of years before this movie, and was the first dark version of Batman. So Frank Miller kind of shaped. It was similar to Cold War Cuban Missile Crisis. Maltese was this underpinning news cycle story throughout the entirety of the comic.
Yeah. I just think it's great that they pull those all together. Even from 89 to 2022, right? They still maintain the thread. So
what's the name of the town in Commando of the city? Verde? Vala Verde?
Jelani, do you remember?
Do you guys not remember?
I don't.
I got to look it up. Oh, but yeah, I feel like they used it a few times in some Arnold movies, and it's something like Verde.
Yeah, you're right. It's Verde something.
I'm looking, but I don't see it.
Val Verde, fictional country in Commando. and it's in Die Hard too, I guess. Is that what it is? Yeah,
I think you're right.
It's in all those 80s action films.
Or Corto Maltese.
What's the reference from Die Hard?
I don't know. They're from Val Verde or something like that.
Or are they part of the freedom fighters that they're trying to get freed when they're asking for
this
all those
mythological island?
It's just a fictional country that they've used in multiple, action movies. Almost like the Wilhelm scream. It's just something that gets reused.
Martin, you showed your son. Mm-hmm. Jelani, you did not watch this with any of your kids?
No, not yet.
Yeah, I didn't either. So I this is what we always like to kind of discern, and everyone's going to handle it differently, but kind of what that age is for showing, for showing this movie, when the time comes. Charlie's got years before it's going to be ready, or it could be tomorrow for all I know. But
if he raises like Martin, it will be.
She did kind of watch it with us.
Yeah, that's where I was going to go. Technically, she's seen it, right?
Yeah, she saw it, but she didn't see it. Yeah.
But what are you thinking? What are you thinking is the perfect age for this one?
I don't know. There were a couple of moments where I was like, "Oh, that seems like a dated reference." Like Michael Keaton essentially is like telling Kim Basinger that she's being hysterical and to shut up.
Right.
In one of the scenes, I was like, that's a little rough. I don't love that. But for the most part, I don't know. It's pretty accessible.
We always
probably double digits would be my guess.
Yeah, I think that's right. That's what we always say. Like we don't want to. You don't want to do it too early. If you show it to a 6-year-old. They might just feel like, I don't want to watch this old time movie and not get it all. But you don't want to wait too late either, because they might not hit them the right way like it did us right around.
There's
10.
a sweet spot in there somewhere.
Yeah.
One of the things that the challenges that I have is when, let's say, like I show it to Brooklyn and like we're sitting and watching, like his brother will be like, I don't want to watch it, and then 40 minutes in, he's like, oh, what are we watching? Like. Sits down and starts watching. And then the girls will come in and they'll start watching. And of course, like, they're coming in late, like halfway through the movie, and they're all like, what's happening here? Who's this? Why are they doing that? And I'm like,
get out.
Oh, just stop. Like, you haven't been here for the beginning. You can't just come in and ask 75 questions. Like, it always takes like twice as long to watch a movie with my kids because
this is where you gotta like be like, hey, you three? It's bedtime, and then you'd be like, "Hey, you go downstairs.
Yeah,
we're watching a movie tonight, just you and I, nobody else, and we're just gonna go straight through." But I'm telling you, man, I said it earlier, 2 hours and 5 minutes feels like a long movie in 1989.
Oh yeah, for sure.
It felt like a long movie in 2024 too. I'll be honest.
It didn't feel long. Colin and I did it at on a Saturday morning.
Yeah, well, that's the key. It's about timing.
Great.
And when I was watching it, I was like, shit. Yeah. I'm trying to get this thing done.
And it was just the two of us. So it was perfect. So it was a perfect scenario for it. And he didn't fight me at all. Sometimes he'll fight me on a movie selection, and then afterwards he's like, "Is there a sequel?" And I'm like, "See, I told you." And this one he didn't fight me, but he also asked, and he looked on Max and saw how many there were, and he's like, "Oh, I'm so excited! Let's watch it right now. Let's watch Batman Returns." So
I'm psyched for the two of you.
Yeah,
Martin.
I know. We're going on a journey. We're just getting started.
Were there any parts of the movie that felt incredibly dated?
You nailed it with that scene. I remember thinking too, like, why did she continue to listen to him? Why did she just stand up and be like, "You just told me to shut up. I'm out," because it was 1989.
You didn't catch the part where they were in love, despite finding out she's in bed with a superhero.
Are we going to try to love each other? That's what she said.
It was so incessant. The conversation, I was like, what just happened here? In my opinion, some of the writing was maybe not as ideal as it could be. I actually noticed something, dare I bring it up, but it's very much in the zeitgeist right now. And am I crazy? Or did the Joker do the Trump dance on the float?
You and Jen and I all said the same thing.
Yeah, it was very, very much. If you may or may not, if you didn't catch it,
I didn't catch it.
It is not even. Jelani, I'm glad you caught it as well. I was like, no doubt. I was like,
when he was throwing the money, there was definitely a bit of fist pumping.
For sure.
Yeah. It was like right when they were rounding the corner.
Yep.
And it was like, and like I said, it's very much in the zeitgeist right now, and it's apparently. Might have been lifted from, shockingly from a 1989 classic.
I started laughing at that scene, and Jen was like, "Why are you laughing?" And I'm like, because he looks like he's Donald Trump out there dancing. And she goes, I'm glad you said that because I was having the exact same thought.
She just didn't think it was funny.
One of my favorite scenes is the museum when he's just going through and reworking all the art, and they're just doing the dancing, and one of his henchmen is like painting on the picture of like the ballet dancer, and he's doing like a little ballet dance back and forth. Like everything about that is just, I think, perfect and very Tim Burton, and he fancies himself an artist. The Joker does. I think that's just a great scene. Not to answer, doesn't answer your question because it didn't feel dated or anything, but
it was. No, I agree with you though. I think it was a good scene.
Yeah.
I kind of feel like enough time has passed where all of the 80s references are now back to being like cool, like early 2000s, that 80s kind of feel, look, the neon colors, kind of what was off-putting, and now it's kind of come back full circle a little bit, or at least in my opinion.
I think you're right. Yeah, the aesthetic doesn't feel off anymore. Yeah.
Yeah, and the Prince music too.
Mm-hmm.
The term you should have used was rad again. All those terms are rad again.
There we go. Oh, rad dad, right?
Exactly.
Rad dad. That's great. You're the latest rad dad to join us.
Baddest and raddest dad there is.
I'm glad you picked this movie. I think it was well overdue for us on the pod, and I think I want to show my son, and I think it's closer than it'll happen sooner than later.
As always, never rub another man's rhubarb, but do rub that subscribe button. Thanks, and save it for the pod.
Rub the subscribe button. That's so perfect. That was a Brady edition. That's good.
Martin had one, and I was like, "Hold on! I had this idea. I'm like, I want to put this in there."